Good evening and welcome. My name is Taylor Kingman, President of the Board of Trustees for San Angelo ISD. I would like to welcome all of you who are present at tonight's regular board meeting, as well as those who will be watching the recording online or on our public access channel. Today is August 24th. All items on tonight's agenda have been posted as required by state law, and most items have been discussed in our earlier pre-agenda board workshop. As a board, our work includes setting goals, hearing reports from our superintendent, approving budgets, contracts, personnel items, and making policy decisions for the district. Please keep in mind that this is a meeting of the board held in public, not a meeting of the public. These proceedings are recorded and will become part of the district's permanent record. To help us maintain a clear recording, please refrain from speaking while others have the floor, and please silence your cell phones. Thank you for being here and for your support of SASD. We do have a quorum, and we'll begin with our first item on the agenda tonight, which is our invocation. And Harold Watkins, pastor at Freedom Fellowship Church, is going to help us with that this evening.
Good afternoon. Jessica invited me to come and pray this evening. She didn't give me a time limit. And I am a preacher. So I thank God for the privilege of being here and being able to do this. I want to say just a couple of things before I pray, because I'm a lifelong resident of San Angelo, Texas. My wife and I both graduated from Central High School in 1971. I know you can't believe that, but all of my siblings are graduates from SAISD. I have 4 siblings. Both of my children are graduates from Central High School. And so being a pastor here for 25 years, we celebrated 25 years this year. As you can see, I'm really invested in this city. It's my life. I love this city. I love the school district. I love the schools here. And I just left the hospital. There's a man in our church. He's been battling cancer. And they said it's all over his body. They're really not giving him any hope. And I just talked to his wife before I left there, and she said, "We're still fighting." And I thought, wow. And we're fighting with you. We're not giving up, because we believe that God is a God of miracles. And I thought, that's what we should be doing for our children, for our students, is fighting for them. Just like we would fight for anybody that we know is giving their all to do their best to get well, to get healed. So with that being said, I really want to, 2 weeks ago in our church service, we devoted half the service to praying for our schools. All the schools in our district, our county, all of our teachers. We've been to schools and walked the school grounds and prayed for teachers and principals and students. So I invite you as people, if you're people of God, I don't know your faith, if you have faith level or not. I'm just glad that I'm here, and I know some believers that are here. The Bible says where 2 or 3 are gathered in His name, that He's in our midst. But I encourage you to pray daily for our teachers and our students, our board, all those involved in our school district. Because I believe SAISD can rise to be one of the most excellent school districts in our state. So with that, would you bow your heads in prayer? Heavenly Father, I thank you for this opportunity to come before you in the precious name of Jesus, in the powerful name of Jesus, and ask, Lord, and invoke your presence here, not only just to oversee what is taking place, but to fill the hearts with your people, with creative ideas, with wisdom, with knowledge, with understanding. Father, I bless this school board to fight for the students, to fight for the teachers, to fight to make this the best school district in the state. Because, Father, you are a God of excellence. And, Lord, I thank you that you've called us to be people of excellence. We bear your image according to your word. So, Lord, lead this body, lead this board. Father, lead our teachers. Give them discernment in how to deal with students with compassion and with love and with kindness. But also, Father, I call our teachers to have a renewed passion to teach and really raise our children up to a new level, a new standard of excellence in this city, in this district. Father, I bless your name today, and I thank you for who you are, and I give you all the praise and all the glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Next on our agenda are pledges of allegiance. If you will stand and join me as you are able. I pledge Next on our agenda, we have some recognitions. Ms. Fentress is already there. We're going to start with recognition of career and technical student organizations.
Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, and members of the board, thank you for having us here tonight. It's my privilege to recognize a group of outstanding students and advisors who have represented our district with excellence through their participation in career and technical student organizations, more commonly known as CTSOs. CTSOs are an integral part of our CTE programming. These organizations provide students with opportunities to apply the knowledge and skills that they learn in the classroom through leadership development, competitive events, community service, and real-world experiences. Through CTSOs, students develop technical expertise, professionalism, teamwork, communication skills, and confidence that will serve them well in college, their careers, and in life. This evening, we are recognizing students who competed during the 25-26 school year and achieved success at the state level, which then earned them the opportunity to advance to national competition. Reaching this level of accomplishment requires countless hours of participation, of preparation, dedication, perseverance, and a commitment to excellence. I would also like to acknowledge the tremendous contributions of our CTSO advisors. These educators invest significant time beyond the school day to mentor, coach, prepare, and support students throughout the competition season. Their dedication plays a critical role in helping students achieve success, and we're grateful for their leadership and commitment. At this time, I'll introduce our CTSO advisors and invite them to recognize our students. Representing DECA as part of our Business Marketing and Finance Program of Study are advisors Lindsay Ward and Gerald Jost.
Thank you so much for having us this evening to talk to you a little bit about the amazing things that these amazing students do and get to do all year long. Before we begin honoring their really cool things they've done, I want to fill you in a little bit on specifically what we do in DECA. DECA is designed to prepare emerging leaders and entrepreneurs in the fields of business, marketing, finance, hospitality, and management. And we do that by creating local business partnerships and working with those businesses to help teach and mentor our students, doing a lot of community service projects that then teach us project management skills to these students. And then additionally, through these competitions, that they can then take all of these things they've learned to the competition level. This is going to be my 8th year with the DECA organization here at Central High School, and I'm proud to say that for all but my very first year, we have advanced to international level. Ours is internationals because Canada comes, you know. Anyway, so it's very exciting that we've had such success, and several of these students have had multiple successes. I actually have one over here that's been a 3-time advancer to internationals. So with that being said, I would love to introduce each one of them and what they participated in this last year. The first group is going to be the group that were a part of the Thrive Leadership Academy, which is where they get to go to internationals and take a kind of a course, and they have a lot of professionals that come in and speak to them and teach them about professionalism beyond school and once you get out into the world. And so we have 4 graduates from that academy this year: Ethan Carrasco, Kaylee Juarez, Jesse Marquez, and Miley Strain. If y'all will come. Go shake hands, yeah. Okay. Next up, Zephyr was unable to be with us this evening, but Zephyr Perez advanced to international competition this year with her project and her business growth plan, which means that she actually owns her own business. It's a comic house where she creates her own cartoons. She's incredibly talented. If you ever get an opportunity to see her work, I strongly recommend it. She advanced with us to competition and was actually named as a top scorer in the SWOT analysis portion of her project. Then next up, we have Nicole Nee. Nicole Nee also serves as our current year's president for our district and is our VP of marketing. And she advanced this last year in a category called Business Operations Research, where she was a top scorer in her project budgeting section. Next up, we have Alyssa Ramirez and Leanna Granillo. They worked on the project management community giving category. They were top scorers in the written entry and professionalism, the overall written entry itself, the whole thing. They were one of the top scorers for that. And they also had a top score in the use of project management process. Next, last but not least, Aiden Ashworth and Leonardo Pina, and Leo is our 3-time advancer to internationals. They made it to internationals in the project management sales project category and actually placed as a top 5% score on the overall written entry out of all of the projects in that category at nationals. They also were a top scorer in problem and project scope, monitoring schedule and budgets, and the written entry professionalism portion. All of these entries earned scores. What that top score means is that they were in the top 10% of all international competitors in one or more of the evaluated areas of the competition rubric, and that's what that identifies. So we're super proud of this team of 10 students that we were able to advance to international competition this year, and they just blew them away. So thank you so much.
Representing Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America as part of our Family and Community Services and Hospitality Programs of Study are Deborah Decker and Rebecca Ugalde.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Ugalde, and this is Deborah Decker. We are both family consumer science teachers at Central High School, where we are also the FCCLA advisors. I'm starting my 4th year, and Deborah Decker is starting her 35th year as advisor. With our organization, we go and strive to do better in the community, especially family-oriented events. With our 2 students, coming up, this is Celeste Cole and Gino Mendez. This is their 2nd year in FCCLA, 1st year advancing to nationals. They went to state, where they were 1st in the state of Texas under level 3 event management. This is, they went on to nationals, where they competed in Washington, D.C. They were able to place in the top 10% in the nation for their event. They did the same event, and it was under project management, where they decided to go and conduct a whole event dedicated for the community. This was an event for Tiny Texans, the daycare for the district. This is a daycare that helps educators, anybody that is employed with the district, and they went and took Christmas photos, which is always a difficult time to remember to take pictures of your little ones. And it was really a fun experience. I think they had a lot of fun handling the babies and taking photos and editing and delivering. So this was a fun time. This is our 2nd year, or my 2nd year, to have students go to nationals. Deborah, she's had tons of students go to nationals, and so we are hoping that this is another good year, and we have students go to nationals. This year we are hosting nationals in San Antonio, so it'll be a fun event. Thank you.
And representing the Texas Association of Future Educators, which the acronym is TAFE, not TAFE, which is part of our education and training program of study, is our advisor Scarlett Rodriguez, and Michaela Morgan is also an advisor for that chapter.
Hello, I'm Scarlett Rodriguez. We took about 40 kids to state. We took 8 students to nationals. This is my 6th year or so with TAFE. So we have a really, really exceptional group of young ladies this morning, today. If you guys will come this way. So the first one is Emily Buck. She is the 3rd returner to nationals. She went her freshman year, her sophomore year, her junior year, and she is a senior this year. She is the area president for our area and our TAFE chapter president. Israel Morales is actually not here. He graduated last year, and he is our lone Lakeview chief that competed. He actually got number 7 in public speaking in the nation. Emily also competed in public speaking. She got 3rd in the nation. Next to her is Ella Elkins. She wrote a book with her friend Sophia Underhill. Sophia is a drum major, so she's at band tonight. They wrote a book called Curls Like Mine. Next is Zoe Rodriguez. She wrote a book called Mary and the Multiplying Mangoes. She actually got number 1 at state. She got the Judge's Choice Award, so she was the number 1 book in the entire state. She competed at nationals with her book. Next is Solange. She is a competitor in the Educators Rising Moment for Spanish, so her entire speech is in Spanish. Israel's was also entirely in Spanish. You have to deliver it in Spanish and converse in Spanish. She got number 7 in the nation, which is a big deal. And then Chloe Buck also competed in public speaking in the JV category, and she got number 9 in the nation. So we have some top qualifiers here, which is hard to do. So we appreciate y'all. Let me say one more thing. I do really want to give a shout out to Ms. Ventress. The reason why we get to have national qualifiers and we get to go on these trips is because she does a good job of taking care of us. 100% of our travel accommodations are paid for. I took 13 people to Portland, Oregon this summer, and that's only because CTE takes care of us. So we only get to do what we get to do because Ms. Ventress is our huge supporter, and we have great supporters like you guys. So we appreciate the help.
All right. Next on our recognitions is recognition of San Angelo Reads in our summer book patrol. And Ms. Schwartz is going to help us with that.
Okay. Good evening. Tonight we have 3 recognitions where we're going to pause and express our heartfelt gratitude to some of our incredible community partners. First, we're honored to recognize the outstanding supporter of public education and literacy, HEB. So Odessa, if you want to go ahead and come up. Perfect. Thanks to HEB's generosity, 21 San Angelo ISD students and their 49 siblings received books and special treats through our San Angelo Reads Summer Book Patrol. Altogether, more than 160 books were delivered directly to children at their homes throughout the summer. HEB's support helped us make each of those visits even more special. In addition to supporting the purchase of the books, HEB provided healthy snacks and goodie bags for every child in each household, giving our book patrol team something extra to leave behind for students and their siblings to enjoy. The Summer Book Patrol is all about keeping children excited about reading while reminding them that their school community is still thinking about them, even during the summer months. HEB's generosity helped us do exactly that, putting books into the hands of children and adding a little extra excitement to each doorstep along the way. We're so grateful for HEB's continued generosity and the support of San Angelo Reads, our students, and public education. Tonight, representing the awesome HEB team, we're pleased to welcome Odessa Schmid. She's incredible. We love Odessa. So please join us in thanking Odessa and HEB with a round of applause.
Next, we're going to do recognition of the SASD Team Tailgate Community Partners.
Yes, on to the next. We're so grateful to recognize the community partners who helped make our 7th annual New to the SAISD Team Tailgate, held on July 29th at San Angelo Stadium, such a special welcome for our newest members. This year's event welcomed approximately 100 new professionals to San Angelo ISD as they kicked off 3 days of professional learning, support, and preparation for the new school year. The tailgate was truly a community effort and our biggest one yet. SAISD campuses and departments came out in full force to cheer on our newest team members, while a record 56 local businesses and organizations joined us to show their support and extend a warm San Angelo welcome. This event is more than welcoming new employees to our district. It reflects the heart of San Angelo, a community where educators are embraced, celebrated, and reminded from day one that they're joining a team in a community deeply invested in their success. If you'll direct your attention to the monitors, you will see many of our wonderful community partners who helped make this year's tailgate possible. We sincerely thank our community partners, campuses, and staff for helping create such a memorable start for our newest team members and for continuing to show what it means to support public education in San Angelo. Please join me in giving these incredible partners a well-deserved round of applause for their outstanding support of San Angelo ISD and our newest difference makers.
All right, next we're going to do recognition of the United Way and community partners for partnering with San Angelo Reads Back to School pop-up event.
Yes, sir.
And Susan's going to help us with that.
All right. Tonight, we are proud to recognize the incredible community partners who helped make the 3rd annual San Angelo Reads and United We Read Back to School pop-up possible. On July 31st, more than 1,600 children and family members joined us at the First Financial Pavilion to kick off the new school year with free books, backpacks, school supplies, food, activities, and valuable community resources. Nearly 90 local businesses and organizations came together to make this event possible. more than half of whom had also supported our new to the SAISD team tailgate just 2 days earlier. Their generosity helped provide thousands of books and school supplies, more than 2,000 backpacks, and countless other resources and experiences for our students and families. Our community partners are truly the heartbeat of this event. If you will direct your attention to the monitors, you'll see the many businesses and organizations whose generosity helped make this year's pop-up our largest and most successful one yet. And we'd also like to give a special recognition to our co-host, the United Way of the Concho Valley, and its United We Read Literacy Initiative. United Way has been a valued partner of San Angelo ISD and our own San Angelo Reads Literacy Initiative. And once again, they played an important role in bringing the pop-up to life. Their contributions helped provide 1,000 free hot dogs, along with books, backpacks, school supplies, and engaging activities for children and families. Tonight, accepting this recognition on behalf of the United Way of the Concho Valley, we are pleased to welcome Mrs. Crystal Jansa, Marketing and Events Manager, and Mrs. Tricia Peterson, Director of Community Impact and Engagement. Mrs. Jansa and Mrs. Peterson, if you would please come forward at this time and join Dr. Moran for a photo. Personally, it is a privilege to get to work alongside so many of these amazing partners, including the United Way of the Concho Valley, and many of those you see on the monitors. Throughout the year, year after year, without fail, they show up for San Angelo ISD, and more importantly, they show up for our students, staff, and families. We are incredibly fortunate to live in a community that answers the call whenever there's an opportunity to support our students and schools. If everybody would join me in thanking the United Way and our many community partners for supporting our local community.
All right, next we have Dr. LeMaster, and she's going to help us with some staff recognitions.
Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, members of the board, thank you for allowing us to participate in recognitions tonight. We like to say our people make the difference here in SAISD, and I have a difference maker to celebrate with you tonight, Miss Julie Carter, our position control specialist. Julie's dying a little bit inside, but if you'll come forward for us, Julie. Ms. Carter recently completed all of the requirements to earn her Registered Texas School Business Official, or RTSBO. I've got lots of acronyms for you tonight. Designated through TASBO, which is the Texas Association of School Business Officials. So this is really a significant professional accomplishment for Julie. She had to study hard. She had to be a part of our district, to have school business experience. We're glad it was with our district. Specialized training, and continued professional involvement. Her mom said it best. Her mom and dad are here. Julie's a really hard worker, and we are so grateful for that. So we really celebrate professional growth here in SAISD, and I invite you all to celebrate Miss Carter with me tonight.
All right. Next on our agenda is public comments. We do have individuals signed up to speak this evening. For those speaking tonight, please remember to follow the guidelines you received when you signed in and what were displayed on the screen before the meeting began. Our first speaker is Michael Petrella, and his topic is student-to-teacher ratio.
I think Farrah could agree with me. I think y'all need to invest in a step stool here for short people. Okay. My name is Michael Petrella. I attended Glumware K through 6, Edison Junior High 7th through 9th, and graduated from Central High School. My time in these schools was shaped by some of the best teachers, coaches, counselors, support staff, custodians, and cafeteria workers in the world. I'm here tonight to express my deep dissatisfaction with how this administration is operating. On Friday, August 14th, the second day of school, my wife and I were informed by the Bowie Elementary principal that the first grade enrollment numbers didn't justify 3 teachers. My daughter's teacher was abruptly reassigned to Crockett Elementary, and her remaining students were split between the 2 remaining Bowie classrooms. When I asked the principal what the new student-to-teacher ratio would be, I was told 20-1. Yet a public information request for first grade classes as of that following Monday, August 17th, revealed actual numbers of 21 and 22 students per class. Meanwhile, the data shows Crockett Elementary has 4 teachers for 51 students, roughly a 12-to-1 ratio. Under Texas law, first grade classrooms have a strict maximum cap of 22 students per teacher. While the state asks for a district-wide average of 20-to-1 across K through 4th grades, there is absolutely no legal minimum required to keep a classroom intact. Moving a teacher on day 2 of the school year disrupts young children, breaks their trust, and pushes Bowie's classrooms right against that maximum limit. In the corporate world, managers slice resources and cut staff just to hit target metrics and trigger a bigger executive payout. Our school district is not a corporation, and our children and teachers are not line items. When young classrooms are dismantled on day 2 of the school year, it raises serious questions about our district's financial priorities. Millions of tax dollars are currently allocated to top administrative salaries, yet our classrooms are being squeezed to the absolute legal limit to save a single teaching position. We need a budget strategy that prioritizes the stability of our classrooms over the expansion of central office compensation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Petrella. Next, we have Mr. Virgil Passetti, and the topic is leadership and accountability.
Hello, my name is Virgil Passetti, concerned dad. I know y'all are here to talk to the people about finances today. And our secretary, or actually our vice president of the board, I had made a comment about, sometimes we invest in things that don't matter, and she made a comment that she'd like to hear just about one of them. And it harkens me back to the 3rd step that y'all had the other day, where your Cat Academy teacher came across some information about a student that she wasn't privy to, and then allegedly used that information then to go after a student who is now no longer with the district. And that's when your new tagline came up. It's in the best interest of the district. It wasn't in the best interest of the district to protect that child from what was happening to him when he had no reason to be done like that by her. He wasn't in her class. She shouldn't have had that information. And we still don't know who gave her the information because y'all don't ever tell us anything. And yet, what was the best interest of the district? Let's pay out that contract. So she got to sit at home for a couple of months, and y'all paid her all the way through. You should have turned her over to TEA so that she can't go and do this in another district, but you didn't. So, Madam Vice President, I think that maybe we shouldn't invest in people that are going after our kids. We should invest in people that are taking care of our kids. And you should be ashamed after going through that grievance to know that your leadership team here thought that that was a good idea. And if you have any respect for the public or for respect for that child that got done wrong, you'll use your $500,000 Department of Communication and you'll tell us what happened and what you're going to do different. But if you just want to keep it secret and act like nothing happened, then do what you do, because you know what? That's what's in the best interest of the district. Because at some point, y'all forgot that we're here because of the students. We're not here so that y'all can do a dog and pony show and pretend like everything's great. And shame on you for not stepping up for that student. Each one of y'all should publicly come out and say, what happened to that student is wrong, and here's what we're going to do to make sure it never happens again. Instead, you just wrote a check.
Thank you, Mr. Passetti. Next, we have Mr. Jamal Schumpert, and his topics are Open Meetings Act violation, STAR test results, transportation, and T-tests.
Jamal Shumpert, SMD3. I was going to talk about all that, but I'd rather give you a story about my life. In sixth grade was the hardest time I ever had in education. I got into a lot of trouble, so much trouble that the school I was at kicked me out. So I went to school with my mother, where she was teaching, and I had nothing going good for me. In the middle of the year, I lost all my hair, I guess because of stress and the wrong barber I get, but it really was stress. I told myself that I was worth something because I felt useless. I couldn't satisfy anybody in my family. So I said, I'm going to do the best I can on this TOS test. It's the only thing I can control, how much I learned in this class. Can't control some of my actions because I'm so young, I couldn't understand. I had some traumatic issues before that I was dealing with, and I didn't know how to deal with them. I didn't seek counseling. We come from a low-income household, so I couldn't. I did the only thing given to me, the only opportunity. I learned, and I made a perfect score on the TOS test, with the exception of the field questions. That day determined my success in life. There hasn't been anything I said with that same emotion that I have not accomplished. It is a key driver when you tell these students that, yes, this test doesn't determine your success today, but if you work hard and I give you those tools, it does determine your success. When you tell them it doesn't, you're just basically telling the kids it's okay to fail the test. And then the kids who make good grades, you're telling them it doesn't even matter. I understand it's a lot of blame coming down on administration academically. It's warranted. When you make a mistake, your failures breed success. If you continue, if you stop, it is exactly what it is, a failure. And that day helped me become a teacher in Dallas. I wasn't given an opportunity here to teach in 2019, 2020, or 2021. So I took the only opportunity I could have and reached out to Dallas, got a job. And on my T-test, the thing you're looking at today about changing, I got a perfect 20 out of 20 score on my student achievement, the #1 thing on your district innovation plan. I'm here to tell you, maybe it's the emotion and the passion towards education and the lack of, I guess, character to pick yourself up when you fail and continue. That is the issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schumpert. All right. Next, we're going to go into closed session. This is in pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.076, which is security devices. But we're also going to go 551.074, which is personnel matters. And we will be back as quick as we can. All right, we are back from executive session. No votes were taken, no action. Next, we're going to hold our public meeting to discuss proposed 26-27 budget and tax rates. And Dr. Brandon?
Dr. Moran, Dr. Kingman, Board of Trustees. Want to kind of work back through our conversation about budget and tax rate. Have been some changes once you start school and you're able to identify the number of students. That certainly affects everything that we do as far as our budget based on student enrollment. There we go. We're going to run through the appraisal roll, property values, talk about revenue and student enrollment, how it affects that, and then look at expenditures, and then finish with the proposed tax rates. So you can see we talked about on the appraisal roll, the Tom Green County CAD provides by July 25th every year our property values. You see our net taxable value at $6.8 billion. I don't know if it's the battery here. So, and then you see what comes with that, all the different exemptions. Homestead exemption, this year in particular, that the red arrow in the middle of the screen, business personal property tax exemption, increased from $2,500 to $125,000. That in particular reduced property values by $185 million. And then we have the tax freeze, which was a taxable loss of $500 million. So always great things for our taxpayers, but it does bring down the property value. We're fortunate in San Angelo that the state offsets whatever those values are in the M&O and INS. So if we look at taxable property values, you can see how over time property values have increased. And then just about the time we saw the biggest jump from $7 billion to $9 billion, we increased from 40,000 homestead exemption to 100. And then that kind of settled. And then before we saw another increase, it went to 140 and 200. 200 at our 65 and older. And then we see this year, the increase again, I think it was going to be about $7.3 billion. We had the personal property tax exemption, and it dropped back down to 6.8. So as we had the start of school in the middle column, right, we've been tracking since June, July in the left column, and then as we moved into August, the center column, and we felt really good about the $600,000 to the good. We talked about the Asahi, the hold harmless for M&O, and those freezes and how the state was going to push that back, that $1.4 million in the white section from state revenue. And then we have the start of school, and in your Friday facts, you saw what the numbers look like. We are over, I think it was 11,800, but what we need that to be is through the year, right? So we need to get to 12,000 so that as we lose students through the year through attrition, moving, then we can level out. So we've moved the budget to 11,750 students. And you can see the major impact is in state funding. It doesn't affect our local taxes, but in state funding, 5812, the foundation school program, you see that $2 million drop from 50 million to 48 million, tied solely to the loss of those 250 students. And then, so the bottom line, dropping from 129 million to 127 million, that bottom red arrow. So then we had to offset that. If we're going to reduce the revenue from the state, then we had to talk about where's that going to come from. And so you remember from Friday, there were 119 vacancies that we were holding that were built in the budget that if all things were equal, if all the positions could be filled that were open, that would be the 119. So we took that list, and then we just had a hard conversation about what do we feel like we can either do without or that we are going to have a really difficult time in filling. And so we began to back those out and reduce expenditures and staffing. So you can see there on the payroll at $109 million. We know a month ago the board talked about what we could do for staff and the $1,000 insurance supplement, the health insurance supplement for every employee to help offset the increases in employee health insurance. We knew that was going to come in just under $2 million. So it was already part of the $3.2 million deficit. But if we keep an eye on the payroll, they're at 109 million. And then we see where that carries forward on the chart on the right on available revenue. We reduced that to 127, but we also reduced the payroll from 109 to 107. So we reduced expenditures, staffing expenditures by $2 million to match what you saw here, that $2,234,000 from state funding, offset by the move from payroll being 109 million to 107. So we stayed right at the 3.2 that the board looked at earlier in the month. So that 127,143,762 directly goes to total revenue on our general fund official budget, and then you see the 3.278586 deficit is shown as the excess revenue or expenditure, the deficit there. Debt service fund, we looked through that. That's healthy. The state is making up the projected Asahi, the hold harmless, 3.7 million, but selling the bonds before that September 1st date, that between 3 and 4 million will continue to reoccur through the life of the bond, which that savings to our taxpayers. So certainly a strategic move on behalf of the board and the district to make that happen. I think our financial advisor calculated that around $70 million in savings over the life of the bond. So the INS fund balance will actually increase by $650,000, most of that due to interest revenue. Here's our historical M&O tax rate. Our maintenance and operations back in 1819 at $1.04, so that has dropped 30 cents over time. We see a penny drop again from last year till this year. And then our historical INS, as the district began to pay down the 2008 bond all the way down to 8 cents, and then the passage of the new bond. And then I'm sure that would be the hope of the board and the district. Over time, we'll begin to see that lowered as our property values increase. And then overall historical tax rate, our maintenance and operations with our interest and sinking, $1.07 last year, proposed $1.06 this year. You see that decrease. Just in a different form, from 2526 to 2627. The notice of public meeting published in the paper, you see year over year, last year to this year, in the budget, a 4% decrease in maintenance and operations. So we decreased that by almost $5.5 million to offset the loss in student enrollment. And then we talked about the comparison of proposed levy. The increase in taxes of $81 this year over last year is not about increase in property values or home values. It's tied to the 10% homestead cap. So when property values took a jump 2 or 3 years ago, they're still catching up. The most they could go up in a year was 10%. So that's what we see here is from 90,000 to 98,000 is a catch up of that 10% in the homestead cap. The voter approval tax rate is $1.076108, so we're under that amount. And then just a note, because if there's a question, we also report in the tax rate calculation worksheet the no new revenue tax rate. Since there was a slight increase in property value, to generate the exact same revenue as last year would be $1.02. We're proposing $1.06. The difference in those two numbers would be approximately $2.5 million. So where are those funds? Well, the $1.8 million in employee health insurance supplement to make employees whole rather than lose any money from last year to this year. The board voted to provide a health insurance supplement to every employee of $1,000. So that would be a direct offset of that $1.8 million. It's about a $500,000 decrease in interest revenue just because we've had declining interest rates. We'll see that in our report, in our investment report, as those have gone from about 4.5 to high 3s. And then also the commitment by the district to provide an armed officer at every campus. That this past year, $1.6 million. So the administrative recommendation, when we get to the board action item later in the meeting, M&O at 0.7054, INS at 0.3584 for a total tax rate of $1.638.
Any questions for Dr. Brandon?
Just a quick question on the voter approved tax rate. Is that in perpetuity or does it ever expire? How does that work?
The voter approved tax rate is different year to year. If you were to go over it, let's say that property values fell and we needed $1.09 to create the same amount of revenue, we couldn't do that without going to the voters. So much like we had the tax ratification election when we went out for the 3 golden pennies, anytime the district needs to go over the voter approval tax rate, that's what initiates an election for the voters.
Gotcha.
So,
thank you.
And just a quick question, Merle, the armed officer, is it 1.8 million or 1.6?
1.6.
Now that's mandated by the state. It's a mandate by the state that we have to pay for. Is that how that's done?
They provide about
The security mandate?
500,000.
They provide 500 of them, so we throw the other 5.
And there are options, right? There's several options that you can choose from. One of the things that we've tried to do is engage not only San Angelo PD, but the Tom Green County Sheriff's Department. Both entities help protect our staff and our children, but our commitment to be keeping an armed officer on each campus, and so that's where that 1.6 million comes in throughout the whole school year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Brandon? I mean, just for our public, you talk about decreasing positions, but it makes sense we're decreasing positions. We have less enrollment, and we're obviously everyone's keeping their job. I want to make sure that everyone understands that although we're decreasing positions, we're letting that happen by attrition. We're not doing that by anyone losing a job that has a job for the district.
Yes, sir.
But just making sure we're all on the same page on that. All right, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to some information items. Bond construction update, and Mr. Brooks Wayner with KFW Architects is going to come up here and give us an update.
Good evening, Dr. Moran, Dr. Kingman, members of the board. Thank y'all for having me. Just a quick update on the Lakeview Concession Building and Fannin Elementary. Lakeview Concession, as you see here, these two renderings. Construction has started. We received our permit, building permit, earlier in the month, and construction has been moving quite along at a good pace. You'll see there that's under slab plumbing that's in place. So that's all the sewer and vent stacks set up for toilets, sinks, mop sinks, and the like, anything. And so then all the trenches have been backfilled with flowable fill. And so that's set and ready to go. You'll also see that the gray caliche is the building pad. So that has been set. Then there on the left, you'll see sort of an in-progress image of under slab electrical conduit that's going to be coming up and serving from the road, the electrical service from the road, that then comes to a transformer that's behind the, you can kind of see there, that little transformer pad in the back. And that transformer will now then serve this concession building and also all of the lights that are going in as well. But this electrical service is serving the building, and that is in progress. And I think it should be, if it's not wrapped up today, it should be wrapped up tomorrow. And then I believe by the end of the week, they'll start setting forms and tying rebar in order to pour concrete shortly after that. On the right-hand side, you'll see the demolition of the kind of a saw cut up right through the middle of that parking lot, and that's going to be where they'll be pouring kind of a curbed concrete median with new pole lights, new parking lot pole lights as well. Fannin Elementary, that is moving as well, but it's kind of moving behind the scenes as well right now. We're working with Lee Lewis and with the city to kind of get the permit issued as quickly as possible. Still waiting on that. Construction fencing is set up. The portable buildings have been removed. Lee Lewis has their job trailer there now, and the dirt contractor is slated to start this week to begin moving that dirt and start preparing the pad for both the cafeteria and the in this 12 classroom building that you see right there. So that will be starting this week.
Questions for Mr. Weiner? So, city permit, we're confident we're going to get that this week?
No. We'll start it on what they can work on without needing a permit, which is setting dirt work and the like. And so we have a contingency in place if need be, if it looks like the permit process is going to drag out continually. But we have been receiving comments back from the city that we're then responding to quickly. So I think those are starting to sort of like let up a little bit. So I'm hopeful that I think we're close to getting the site permit. And then it was broken up into three parts. There's the site permit is one permit application. The cafeteria building was a separate permit application. Then the 12 classroom was a separate permit application per the city's request. And so we're kind of quickly sort of fielding those their comments and revisions requests. And so we're working through that.
Well, I was just going to ask you, what's the completion date on this one?
It's July 15th, 2027.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, Mr. Weiner? Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, Dr. Gomez, you're going to give us an update on academic programs, please.
Dr. Kingman and Dr. Moran, only if it's okay. We, on information item D, we have 2 visitors waiting, and B and C, we're local, so we're going to be here. Could we have Ms. Becerra come up so our guests don't have to wait? Thank you.
Ms. Becerra. Thank you, Dr. Gomez.
Thank you, Dr. Gomez. Dr. Moran, Dr. Kingman, and members of the board, good evening. Tonight, I am excited to introduce Campus Crime Stoppers as an additional layer of San Angelo ISD's comprehensive school safety efforts. Campus Crime Stoppers provides students with a safe and anonymous way to report concerns before they escalate into larger issues. The program empowers students to be active partners in school safety, supports early intervention, and strengthens collaboration between our schools, law enforcement, and the community. Through this initiative, we hope to identify concerns earlier, connect students to needed support, and continue fostering safe and supportive learning environments. Campus Crime Stoppers is a proactive safety initiative that allows students to anonymously report concerns and be part of the solution. It is being launched as part of our ongoing commitment to school safety. The program complements existing safety practices and reporting processes. We are partnering with Concho Valley Crime Stoppers, San Angelo Crime Stoppers, and local law enforcement to support implementation. And so I'd like to take a moment to introduce our guests. We have Mrs. Quimby Doss, who is the Executive Director of San Angelo Crime Stoppers, and then Sergeant Mark Calvert, who oversees the SROs in our district. So they're with me, and they will talk a little bit here in a few minutes. And I only have a few slides for you all. If we'll go to the next slide to share a little bit of information about the program. So what is Campus Crime Stoppers? It's a student-centered program that allows students to anonymously report concerns before they become larger safety issue. Some of the items that students can report are bullying, cyberbullying, threats of violence, weapons, illegal drugs, theft, vandalism, self-harm concerns, child abuse, dating violence, human trafficking, sexual misconduct, and other safety concerns. So why Campus Crime Stoppers? This is three things that we look at here. Prevention, which it allows us to identify concerns early. It prevents escalation, and it supports intervention efforts. It also gives our students voice and empowers our students. It encourages responsible citizenship, and it builds trust. And also, because of school safety, it strengthens reporting culture, enhances situational awareness, and supports safer campuses. Crime Stoppers works. We know this. This information I took off of the Attorney General's website. Since Campus Crime Stoppers' inception, there have been over 41,000 anonymous tips received that have cleared 57,000 cases in Texas. Campus Crime Stoppers programs have successfully recovered over $5 million in stolen property, seized over $2 million worth of illegal drugs, and retrieved nearly 6,000 weapons from school campuses across Texas without incident before acts of violence can occur. Campus Crime Stoppers is simple, safe, and anonymous. The workflow is kind of laid out here, but this is the part where I wanted Ms. Doss to come and talk a little bit about what it looks like, because along with Sergeant Calvert, she will be helping us implement these programs at our middle school campuses, and she's going to be working closely with myself and Sergeant Calvert and administrators on campus to make this happen. So she can describe this process a little bit better.
Yes, so the students will report their concern through, you can do it an app or website or call. And we will have all of those avenues for them available for them to report. So they'll report the concern. I will get the tip first, and then I will filter out, because Crime Stoppers' number one thing is keeping everybody anonymous. So I will make sure it is anonymous. It cannot be tied back to anybody. And then I will forward it on to Sergeant Calvert. And then he will go from there and do the intervention, the investigation, whatever needs to happen will happen. And then he will report back to me, and then I will continue the other part with our student board or without, because there's two different things there. So these students that tip are actually going to receive cash rewards. And we have a thing set up, how you get the tips. We have that set up already with our original or regular Crime Stoppers, so it's going to be similar to that. And then we will have a fast cash option, so we don't have to meet, because our adult board has to meet every time and vote on a reward. So we won't have to meet. We won't have to pull these kids or blow up their phones or anything like that. We'll have a fast cash option, and then I will automatically put that and give that to the tipster. So where we are right now is in May, we had asked principals to get teachers to nominate students. So we had those students nominated. We sent them out a link to do an interest indicator. We got back about 20, and we went from there, and we did 6th and 7th graders in hopes to the 6th graders next year will be 7th graders, 7th graders will be 8th graders, and we'll keep them on and then kind of ensure continuity. So we have those. They were invited to our adult board meeting, and some of them came, and I wanted them to see how a board meeting is ran. And so next month we have our first meeting, and I will do like a Crime Stoppers crash course and all things they need to know, and then they will vote for if they want a board position, and we'll run from there. In hopes that we will advocate for student safety, how to tip. I kind of want to be like a crime prevention / keep your eyes and ears open, and reporting and advocate, and to let their other students know that this is a safe way to report. Because let's be honest, students know what's happening more than teachers do. They know what's going on. So if there's some reason, some way to report and be anonymous, I think they will do it. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I applaud this program. I think it's highly needed. And the best way that I think and you're right, students know more than anyone, but the weight of knowing something as a child and carrying that is enormous for some of them. One of the things a child told me once that I never would forget is, I know something that I wish I didn't know. And what do they do with that? And they internalize it. So thank you for being the safe place that they can go and tell and be anonymous, because the word snitch, they don't want to be a snitch, but yet they know right from wrong. So thank you for this program.
Then just the last slide, the expected outcomes from this program are that we have earlier identification of safety concerns. We hope to increase student engagement in school safety, because as a board on each campus, they will promote activities. They will hopefully promote reporting at their schools. And so that will increase student engagement. We want greater awareness of reporting options. We do have other reporting options in our district. This one's highly incentivized because kids can get money. So we hope that will, help us get more tips on our campuses. This will also enhance the partnerships we have with law enforcement. We plan to work very closely with our SROs on each campus, and they will also help kind of guide the process when we receive a tip that needs to be investigated. We plan to triage those tips. So some of those tips may go, if it's more a discipline concern, then obviously that would go to the administration at the campus. Or if it's a mental health that's been reported, obviously that would be routed to the counselor on campus. And if we think that there might be an actual criminal offense, then we would include our SROs on campus. We do see this as increasing opportunities for intervention and support. And obviously the goal is to create safer learning environments for students and staff. So that's it. Thank you.
Real quick, Ms. Becerra, I know we already have kind of an anonymous tip thing for parents and students through our websites, and but what happens if they're bogus? What happens if someone's filing bogus anonymous complaints about their peer students, or using it to bully with? How are we handling? How is that being done on other districts to make sure that's not being used inappropriately?
This will be my first time launching Crime Stoppers on our campuses. I can speak for our other reporting tool, which does get tips. It's also anonymous, but we do receive tips that are not legitimate. They're just, kids trying to get another student in trouble and things like that. Honestly, through pulling students in and just having a conversation, and you pull in witnesses, you ask about any evidence that you would have, just a normal investigation that most of our administrators are trained in, you can kind of weed out the ones that are legitimate and the ones that aren't by following those processes. Are there any other questions?
I can make a comment on that, because we've used this in some of my current former districts. And there's always an element of that. Yeah. Typically, it runs its course pretty quickly. When students learn, if you do that, there's a disciplinary consequence. And but there is.
I guess that's what I was really trying to ask. Yeah. Is there a disciplinary consequence?
There is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should have been more blunt.
Yeah. Nope. There sure will be.
Sergeant Calvert, San Angelo Police Department. I'm the supervisor over the SRO division, all the officers that work in school safety in the campuses. One of the things that we become good at as police officers is asking specific questions to kind of get through the weeds when those sorts of things happen. The same thing happens in different avenues already on campuses today. So that's something that we deal with on a fairly regular basis. We do have the skill set in place to be able to directly implement that into Crime Stoppers when inevitably a student will try to pick on another student making tips like that. So I'm confident that we can catch that and then, of course, address it as necessary with the school administrators.
Thank you. And thank you, Sergeant Calvert, for everything y'all do for our kids. Really appreciate it.
It's an honor.
I just had a quick question before I leave, sorry. Where does obviously the criminal offenses and stuff and violence things, but does this extend to like code of conduct infractions like dress code and stuff, or is that, y'all educate the students?
If we receive tips that are related to our code of conduct, then those will be sent to school administration, and then we'll handle them the way we normally do.
Okay, but their students are, I guess, educated on what should be reported and what shouldn't be reported?
Yes, that will be part of the outreach that our campus school board will have, is educating their peers on how to properly report. So.
I have a couple questions too.
Sure.
The first thing is, what is the range of the rewards, I guess, for the things, and where does that funding come from?
Okay, so the range, we're starting out low at first because it can really, other districts that are much bigger than us, they are just paying insane amounts for things. So we're starting out low at first. I think we started with 15 is the lowest. Right now is 15. And that would be like your vapes, things like that. And then you said the range 15.
And where does the funding come from?
The funding. So the funding is from the probation fees. So that's how we get our funding. But it doesn't have to come from probation fees. It can also come from fundraising. And the part of our stipulations is we'll have a few fundraisers a year that you have to help participate in.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were saying that I've seen Crime Stoppers on like San Angelo Gives and so things like that. So that's awesome.
So we are a nonprofit. So,
perfect.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other question was, I know you're starting in middle school, so will it start middle school and then move up to high school as it grows?
That is the hope, yes.
Okay. So, and each campus has its own board?
No, each campus has its own members, and then we will meet once a month with all of the campuses. So they're going to have to spend some of their own time, but I'm trying to keep it fast and educational and fun and engaging.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Now, Dr. Gomez, you get to do update on academic programs.
Dr. Keenman, Dr. Moran, and members of the board, this evening we're going to continue. I know it's very small on the screens in here. That's why you all received copies at your seats and have the TVs next to you. So this evening we're going to continue sharing information that we shared with you in the pre-agenda. If you will recall, the timing of the pre-agenda was before TEA released official data to districts in our TIL accounts. And so during that academic update, repeatedly I told you the data we had was preliminary. And we had, due to the changes in our data tracking system and on data suite, we felt very strongly about not sharing until we had official information so that we were sharing accurate information with the public. So in front of you, you have the first spreadsheet you have in the spreadsheet up here. It has the district overall. And so it's important that I break this down because when TEA releases ratings, the ratings that go to the public are the overall ratings, okay? So as you look across on that first sheet there, you will see over the past 3 years that San Angelo ISD has demonstrated steady system-wide improvement in overall performance. This improved performance has reduced the number of low-performing campuses. However, I want to be very clear, it's super important that we celebrate those improvements and the accomplishments of our students and our staff. But our work is definitely not done. And so I'm going to break that down for you a little further. But in that first sheet there, you have in the far right column, 2024, where the overall rating for the district was a 71. And then in 2025, that overall rating for the district was a 73. And then in 2026, the overall rating of a 76. And then listed for you, and also we've already shared publicly with the community, all of our individual campus ratings. Okay, so again, this is just the overall. I'm kind of looking, because I know this is a lot, so I'm also trying to make sure I'm following if you guys have questions. We'll, of course, take questions at the end, but please stop me. It's also important before I take a deep dive with all of you that I send a reminder for you, those here in person and those watching, that accountability indicators, they vary by level. So when we're talking about accountability for elementary campuses are evaluated primarily through STAR performance and academic growth. They do not have graduation, or when you hear us refer to CCMR requirements, like you saw a portion of our CCMR work this evening in the recognition with our high school students. None of that applies to our elementary campuses. Middle school also is predominantly STAR performance with some high school readiness pathways. But then high school's accountability rating is different from both of those, as it includes STAR, graduation rates, and CCMR indicators, creating a broader picture of post-secondary readiness. Now, if you'll go to the second slide here, and if you all will turn your sheet to the title that's titled Student Achievement. That's all runs together. Student Achievement is Domain 1, okay? So in Domain 1, this is one of the 3 domains that goes into a campus and a district's overall rating. Student Achievement measures how well students perform at a single point in time using STAR results. So again, elementary, middle, predominantly STAR. Now high school, you do have the other indicators that I've mentioned. So again, in the far right, you will see in Domain 1 a 3-year snapshot. 2024, the district overall was a C at a 71, 25, 73, and 26, a 76. And listed for you are all of the campuses. Now I want to take a minute and pause and have you note that our DAEP, which was formerly known as Carver, it is not rated. Those students go to our high school campuses. Then you'll see San Jacinto was still listed on our data this year, when San Jacinto last year in 25-26 did not operate as a pre-K5 or a K5 campus. Okay, if you will turn to your next sheet that has school progress, this is Domain 2. Domain 2 encompasses 2 areas, academic growth and relative performance. So for academic growth from the state assessment, that evaluates year-over-year growth and campus performance relative to their peers. So in that column where it says relative performance, those campuses have comparable schools that have similar student demographics and economic status of students. For this domain, it's the higher of the 2. So if a campus's academic growth is higher than their relative performance, that's the score that the campus receives. That's a lot to take in. But again, if you go over to the far right, you will see the 3-year comparison for the district and also for each individual campus.
Dr. Gomez, can I stop you for a second?
Absolutely.
So when we're looking at academic growth and relative performance for the future, as a district, when we have had campuses that were not where we want them to be, we're looking for higher numbers on our academic growth initially, but then we want their academic growth and their relative performance to actually cross and then get to where relative performance is going. Is that?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
That is accurate.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. No, sir. I said the score they get for that domain is the higher of the two. If academic growth is higher than relative performance, that's the score they receive, or vice versa. Okay? All right, if you will turn the page to your next sheet, titled Closing the Gaps. This is the final domain out of the 3 domains that campuses in the district are evaluated under state accountability. This is the Closing the Gaps domain, and it's important to note that a campus can have a high student achievement domain, they can have a high domain 2, even receive distinctions, but be in federal accountability due to closing the gaps. So when we talk about looking at each individual child and making sure that each student is growing, sometimes that overall letter grade can say, oh, everything's great. But then when you look at subsets of students, they're not performing at the federal target. Okay? So it's important that I bring this out because you all have superintendent board goals. And those superintendent board goals address both federal and state accountability. So state is where you're thinking about the letter grades. Federal accountability, this is where you see it in campus and district ratings in Domain 3, closing the gaps. This first came out for closing the gaps under ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, and that's where districts and campuses are evaluated. Okay? So that again is just breaking it down. You have that information. And what you will see through any one of those is that steady improvement. But I want to go back to what I said at the beginning, that while we must celebrate our staff and students' hard work, we have continuous improvement. We will be coming to you in October specifically to talk about our interventions. So we came to you last year, we talked about our turnaround plans, we talked about our targeted improvement plans. Last week, we attended school improvement for campuses that are engaging in the process. It's also, we've been fully transparent that Bradford Elementary and McGill Elementary, along with some others, were working through school improvement. So even this summer, I reiterated, as we finished U4, that means last year was the 4th year of unacceptable performance for Bradford and McGill. With the updated results, we are entering year 5 for Bradford and McGill. So as our ongoing progress monitoring and our sharing with the board, the staffs, the families of those campuses, we will be sharing our student outcomes and the progress monitoring that we're taking place at those campuses. Okay. All right, that was a lot. Y'all have had this information. I'm happy, though, to try to answer some questions that you all may have.
I think there might be a question about McGill's rating because 2 years ago they were a B, but remember we closed Austin and Austin came over to McGill. And the way that the accountability works, if you have 50% plus 1 of a campus that closes move to another campus, the rating for that campus goes with them. And Austin was an F campus. And so that, unfortunately for McGill, they took that rating with them. And that should phase out. I've got fullest confidence in what we're doing. The work you see, and you see the academic growth and closing the gaps on most every campus. We've got to get to a place where the academic performance or student achievement, domain 1, takes over and kicks in, and that's where we're heading. But that's why you might see tremendous academic growth or closing the gaps, but yet the campus is still not there because they haven't hit that student achievement of a C, B, or an A. And so that you're going to hear more about that in our board superintendent goals about moving our campuses forward in our letter grades. And the reality is, we don't really want to play the game, but what we're doing in the classrooms with teachers and instruction is not a game. It's the kids are learning. We're giving them more challenging, rigorous curriculum than they've ever had. And we're trying to expect more out of all of our classrooms. So the byproduct of that will be that our student achievement will get there. You're going to continue to see this trajectory. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if the district next year was a B and you had no F campuses. In fact, those D campuses are going to continue to move to C's and B's because of the trajectory they've got and the foundation these kids have gotten. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited that we're putting kids in classrooms with qualified teachers. We talked about last year there being 30 classrooms that did not have a teacher at the beginning of the year. It's because we were so spread out. And we had empty seats in teachers' classrooms who were master teachers. And this year we're trying to put those kids in with master teachers so that we've got classrooms that are full under a master teacher, and that master teacher is going to take those kids and move them forward. So we're excited about that.
Dr. Rand, thank you for that. I just want to add some further clarity there. This is super important, especially for the staff that were last part of Austin. It's last year operating as a pre-K 5 campus. So if you will look on your cover sheet or the second sheet of student achievement, you will see in 2024, Austin was not an F. Their last year operating, they were a D. However, still because they were a D, that rating followed them to McGill. I know that's semantics and it sounds like it's minor, but to a campus, they thought they were out of school improvement the last year they were operating because they reached that D. But as a D, as you know, simply pauses the process, and that's the issue that's escalated McGill on that trajectory. So I just want to be super clear about that.
Yeah, I just want to thank Dr. Gomez and Dr. Moran. I think over the last several years, y'all have put a systemic approach to the district. And, I think it's important to point out that, we have some campuses here but they're doing all the right things as well. They're doing the hard work. And they're going to get there just like the campuses that are D's this year got there. These other campuses, we have great principals. We have great teachers. When you look at some of the spots that are not there yet, I think it's important to realize that, as a district, we want to support all of those campuses and make sure that they all get there. One, it's important to the whole district, but two, it's mostly important to those kids. And so I just want to kind of reiterate a thank you to all the hard work that even the teachers and the principals that aren't there yet, the hard work they're doing, because it doesn't go unnoticed that they are doing the hard work as well to get there. So.
I also just want to share with all of you that while, yes, we see the overall ratings, we don't take that and think, okay, that's what they gave us and move on. So we disaggregate this data when we first have it in the summer and develop very specific plans. In September, all of our leaders, every campus principal, every campus assistant principal, all district instructionally related staff, we will have a very deep dive around data. And so if we do have a campus that is still striving in student achievement, we're making a plan. If we have a campus that is not reaching a federal target in closing the gaps, maybe their state rating is a C. Well, we don't want it to miss a federal target. So we do what we call claim the names. We look at every student and see how can we move each student forward with their individual growth. So I just wanted to do the breakdown separate from the overall rating that TEA releases.
Ms. Schwartz, can you go back to the first page, which is the overall? Yeah, and I know there's a lot of highlights here and things we can celebrate, but this is an example of great leadership, with great teachers, with great instructional, high-quality instructional materials and professional learning. Look at Bel Air. Bel Air was a 55 in 2024. This year, they're a 78. That is not an accident. That is incredible work. Miss Beers and her staff there and the teachers should be celebrated. And you can work through this. I know not all of them are that significant, but there are some real celebrations. And man, I'm just excited to see the good work. And I think some of our reluctant staff members are starting to see the turn and they're getting on board. And this is going to be important when we reset next year with attendance boundaries, because as elementaries, we all want to be doing the same work. So when they get to middle school, we've got a foundation, and those kids are going to hit it in good stride into middle school and high school.
Any other questions for Dr. Gomez?
I have quite a few, Dr. Gomez. First, when I was in school, it was a TOS test. Is that the same thing as
It
STAR
is.
test?
So it's evolved from TOS to TAX to STAR.
Okay. Okay, so I had requested this almost 2 weeks ago for 3 to 4 year chart, so I'm just getting it. It's a lot of information, so I got to look through it still, but thank you very much for
Absolutely.
this. I really appreciate it. On the student achievement page, under year 2025, it says San Jacinto, and it has a number as 56, but next to it a letter as B. What's the deal there? Why is that?
Let me pull my report right next to you because I want to be able to answer you directly to make sure that when it was pulled from the district report that we didn't make a typo. And if we did,
Okay.
I'll own the typo. So
Yeah, that's okay.
yeah,
I just
but
want to
I'll
make sure
answer
that
you publicly.
I want to make sure that the rest of this is also
Absolutely.
That there's no mistakes on it.
So when you compile 3 years, Ms. Cardenas, it's not on a single report. So it's a human trying to cross each one of those paths. And
Yes,
so
of course.
if I made the error, I fully acknowledge that it was not intentional, but I'll give you that update.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing
Sure.
anything because this is, I'm new to the board. I want to make sure that I know what I'm looking at.
Absolutely. I appreciate
also
the question.
Thank you. I also sent Dr. Moran several questions, so some of these you might not be able to answer. I'd never got a response back to them, but I'm still going to ask, and
Sure.
maybe you do have an answer to them, and maybe you just answered them too, so I hope that you don't mind repeating yourself. So my first question was to get a 3 or 4 year trend, which is exactly what's here, 3 years, but I really am interested in a little bit more than 3 to 4 years for some of these schools, especially Bradford. And while I do not want to take away from the things that we should celebrate, my cup is always half full. But at the same time, we have to be realistic and point out that there's several schools here that year after year are continuing to fail, like Bradford, and that's not okay. I also want to know, to get out of school improvement, does a school just have to reach a D, or how do you get out of that?
No. So to get out completely, you need to be a C or higher.
Okay, so at some point, 4 years ago, Bradford was a C, or?
Okay, so that's, Ms. Cardenas, where it gets really fuzzy for the public. So, and I'll give you the full timeline.
Okay.
But when COVID came, and then after COVID, the state did not release ratings. So anyone in the public can go on TA's website and look for ratings, and you're going to have years of blank data that say not rated.
There's just I've tried to go get on there and look through it, and it's a little bit confusing.
Also,
It's
the
very
part
hard.
that's confusing, and it's understandable, is in the middle of this, the state changed the test. So you did not have the same test to compare with previous years. So they had what was first called STAR, and then they moved to STAR 2.0, where the item types changed completely. I'll give an example of that change. I just think it's important to understand that when you're looking at tests, that if you're giving a comparison, if it's not the same test, it's really hard to give a comparison of the ratings. So prior to STAR 2.0, there used to be a standalone writing test in 4th grade and 7th grade. And then with the change in the assessment, in every grade, every content area, there are writing questions. So that's one example of how the redesign of the assessment changes the data that you're seeing.
Okay.
So,
And you all as administrators or in the classroom, are you all given advance notice when there's going to be a change like that? Or do you just got to roll with the punches and try to figure out how to now start teaching for that test?
we might be given information that the test is changing, but to see item types and to adjust instruction sometimes can be within the same school year.
Yeah.
And can I comment on that, please? So next year, the STAR test goes away, and the new test is the SST, the Student Success Tool. And this February, we've been selected as one of some schools in Texas to give a field test. And when you give the field test, you get no results and you don't have any feedback from the state. You just take the test, they take that information, and they then refine their test that they're going to give you. So we will be part of the field testing in February, but we won't know anything after that. And to the questions that you sent me, I'm nearly done with most of them. Some of them were very complex,
Right.
so we're still working through that. So I haven't forgotten about you.
Okay, no, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
My next question was, for every D and F campus that we had, which grades, subjects, or student groups were driving that rating?
So that would vary by each campus and grade levels tested at those, and we can give you that breakdown.
Okay. My next question was, why are Bowie and Bradford both at a 50 F, and what are the underlying causes? Are they the same? I guess, it's grouped up. My next question was, what specifically explains Bradford's 54 academic growth score?
Okay, so do you want me to start on let me go back to your one where you asked about Bradford and Bowie and if they were the same. And the answer to that is they are absolutely not the same. Their student demographics are completely different, including the makeup of their student body, but also the economic status. We fully acknowledge that Bowie was an outlier. None of our data over the course of the school year showed that they were going to be an F campus. That was a shock to all of us, and we had multiple checkpoints. For Bradford, if you look across in each one of those domains, you will see, aside from student achievement, the ultimate goal, as we've shared here, is to pull up student achievement as a whole. When you are a higher low socioeconomic campus, to first close those gaps, you make it in growth. And so as your growth goes up, your achievement also goes up. And you'll see that they are trending in that pattern, especially if you look at they're closing the gaps in those sub-hops. They're progressing forward. We just have not progressed at the rate. So, Dr. Mills, did you want to add to that?
Well, you said they're progressing forward. They're closing the gaps that have gone down every year.
Not maybe the overall there. Let me look there. No. That's an overall rate. I'm sorry. Let me pull this up, guys. There's 20 cells on every table.
Yes.
So it's really hard to summarize that there. I could do a full board workshop on accountability. So let me go back.
Well, and Dr. Gomez, I know that when there was an email sent about asking a bunch of questions, and I know that we talked about it being the first of the email response was at the beginning of the school year.
Yes, sir.
Are you working on getting all of those answers to those questions for the board?
Yes, Dr. Moran and I are working on that.
Okay.
In addition to starting school. Yes, sir. We're not done.
No, absolutely. I know we've just started school. I guess what I'm saying is as opposed to trying to find the cell, with Ms. Cardenas, if you're working on it and you can get us that, I think the board's comfortable, or I don't want to speak, but you just getting that information that was requested, and understanding that trying to do that at the beginning of school when the data was released a week and a half ago.
Yes, sir.
Is a tall order to ask that to be done in 8 days. And so I think the whole board understands and so instead of trying to figure out what cell and then try to make sure you're looking at it correctly, if it's okay with Ms. Cardenas, why don't we get all those answers to us in our Friday facts?
The questions that I have, if they're detailed, I don't want you to have to research. We can definitely wait for those, but I still want to go through the questions that I had. Maybe there's some that you can
Sure, keep
answer.
going. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my next one was, can you explain why Lakeview's academic growth was at 56 while its relative performance is at 79?
Yes, because within their comparable schools, they are performing in the bottom quartile, and that's not acceptable. So they should be, the higher you are in your comparison group for schools like you, the higher that score is in that domain. And so remember, in that area of accountability, those are like schools. That's not comparing a school with high economic status and a school of low socioeconomic status. It's taking schools, 39 other schools like you, and comparing you to that same campus population.
Okay.
So, real quick, I just want to ask a clarifying to that, what you just said. So although their academic growth this year was lower, their relative performance was higher than it had been. So that means they're actually doing better compared to their peer districts, correct?
Well, that
That's what
means
I'm
they're
asking.
moving
Peer.
up in their peer districts. So that was the higher of the two, either the academic growth or the relative performance.
Okay.
Yes, that's why they take one of the two.
Carla, I'll speak on that relative performance. And Farrah, you can correct me, but I believe the reason that the state does that, in the past, you take Lincoln and you don't compare it to Glenn because the economic disadvantage is half of that. So what you would do is across the state, you go you find all the schools that have an economic disadvantage, all of those criteria, and then that's where you compare. Then if you have a school in your, let's say 20, that is outstanding, then you contact that school and say, what are you doing? Help us. So it's like, as a state, we all want to educate kids at the highest level. So as a state, you're always looking and saying, what did you do? Just like within the district. So that is kind of an outlier of the state. The school in El Paso is kicking booty. So give us some ideas. So that, and way back, because I'm old, there were times when we would go and visit those schools and see just what, because there may be just something that we're missing. So I think that, to me, is what the relative performance is. Mm-hmm. And since we talked about Bowie, I just wanted to say this, because that grade was a huge shock. Those teachers were devastated. And I never want a teacher that's given everything they got or had for a whole year. And so, I think we have spent a lot of time building those teachers up, because nothing can tear you down when you think you gave it all. And like Farrah said, all of our data showed that they were going to do great. I think we're still trying to figure out what happened, but I also know it's a test and a child, and it's in the hands of a child. So I encourage everyone, if you see a Bowie teacher, they need some cheerleading, and they're doing great things there, and I don't want them to feel like an F.
That's a great intro to my next question. What practices at Fort Concho, Lamar, Santa Rita, and Glenmore have been identified for replication at our lower performing campuses?
So I think that's a wonderful question, and I appreciate you bringing it up. I think it's very, as board members and as administrators, you have to be very careful to blanket identify. We cannot compare Fort Concho to every other elementary campus in our district. In fact, Fort Concho and Santa Rita and their economic status varies from Bradford. So the number one indicator of student difficulties is the poverty level of those students. As Dr. Moran said earlier, I can tell you the main thing that we've done and what is so important is the consistent alignment. When we have mobility in our own district and campuses are not all following the curriculum, and as a student moves from Fort Concho to Bradford or Fort Concho to Santa Rita or Glenmore to McGill, if we're not using the same curriculum, we are creating gaps within our own system, and we're putting our students at a disadvantage. So a campus to point out, if you to go back to your question, that has embraced the high quality instructional material would be Lamar. So if you look at Lamar's progress over the last 3 years, they have fully embraced the fact that we need an aligned resource across the district. They have a different demographic status than Fort Concho and Santa Rita, and as you know, they also carry our functional academics program for elementary. So I want to fully recognize Fort Concho and Santa Rita. I just want us to be careful in making sure that we're taking the full demographics and the overall student population before we're identifying effective instructional practices.
So is each campus using the same curriculum?
So our curriculum for the district, K-5, is Bluebonnet for RLA. Our resource for math, K through Algebra 2, is Bluebonnet Math. We have an aligned curriculum, HMH, for science from K through 8. When you get into high school science and different sciences, there is a different resource. So to answer your question, it is our district-provided resource. Each campus and every teacher on each campus is to use the resource. Also, I know that you've heard me say multiple times, the teacher's craft is what makes a strong teacher. So the way individual teachers use the resource does vary, but that is our district resource.
So each campus has a Bluebonnet curriculum at the elementary level. I'm sorry, I should be specific.
Yes, ma'am.
But they can use it however they see fit. There's not, like you said, where everybody needs to be on the same playing field, so everybody's
So we have a
rolling the same way?
pacing. Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a pacing guide, and each classroom is to be within 5 days of that pacing guide. So some teachers that are new to the profession, they're alt-cert, they don't have a background in education, the curriculum it's very structured, outlined, and is scripted. So if you've never been a first grade teacher and you don't know how to teach reading, you can pick up that manual and provide the instruction. If you're a 20-year-old veteran and you've taught reading, you don't need the full script, but you must accomplish the TEAK, the Text Essential Knowledge and Skill, that is assigned to that lesson. And then all of our campuses, the ongoing progress monitoring is to use the assessments within that curriculum. So they vary by math and RLA. They're called unit or module assessments, and that measures the checkpoint across the district. So when I say to you, Bowie was an outlier, we share MAP data because that's 3 times a year, but that's not the only data that we're looking at. We're looking at formative assessments and ongoing module and unit assessments. And so again, that outlier for Bowie was nothing trended to show the campus moving from a C to an F.
So can I just get a yes or no answer? Is every single elementary school in San Angelo ISD following the Bluebonnet curriculum?
Every elementary school in San Angelo ISD has been instructed that it is our resource, and that's part of our high quality instructional expectation in the district to be teaching in this district.
So are they following it? Just yes or no?
That is the resource, Ms. Cardenas. So to say, are they following? I'm not in every classroom every day, but that is the instructional expectation. That's the expectation we've given every principal and every leader in our district. That's the expectation we have when we go in classrooms.
The reason I ask is that there's just such a big gap between several schools, and is that an underlying reason why one school could be an F and one school could be an A? How do we know? Yes, we've told them to use this curriculum, but how are we sure that that's what they're using? What if they're not, and that's why they're successful, or vice versa?
So we can't be in every classroom every day, as you know and understand. So the expectation is shared with our campus leaders who have been given the expectation of the district. I believe you all have also received those high quality instruction expectations. And we all as administrators, campus and district, are required to conduct classroom observations and walkthroughs. So that's our checkpoint to see if teachers are or are not using it.
Should you find that there's schools not using them, what do you do? Do you correct them? Is there disciplinary action?
Well, you first have conversation about the why. Most of the times, if somebody is not using a resource, there's a why behind it. So you have to get the common ground. But to answer your question could there be discipline? Yes, it's the required curriculum for the district.
Okay. Got a few more. Now, some of these I'll definitely wait. Okay,
Absolutely.
I'll wait. Sorry. Let's see. Because there is quite a few. But now you going through your everything that you've given us, I'm getting answers to.
Yes,
them.
ma'am.
So thank you, I appreciate it. Let's see here. My next questions are what measurable targets, but I know we'll get those soon. I'm also asking for you all to provide the board with campus level teacher turnover, vacancies, teacher experience, chronic absenteeism, student mobility, discipline, class size, intervention, staffing, alongside the accountability results and trends for comparison and a better understanding or correlation between the grades for the past few years. I'm definitely waiting on that. Just giving you advance notice.
Can I comment on that one?
If you're ready to, I don't know.
Yeah, that's like a 1-year study, what you just gave me there, and I've got it. But we've looked at that. We don't have anything that is responsive to that request. That's a study that we'd have to take a deep dive into. And what you're asking there, I don't know that I can give you within 6 months to a year.
Well, I understand that, Dr. Rand, and I know you're fairly new to the district, but the schools specifically that need that information and intervention, that should have been done before somebody bringing it up right now or asking. So for you to tell me that it's going to take a year, it should have been done years ago, specifically for Bradford. Let's see here. I'm also asking what the current percentage of Hispanic students attending Bradford Elementary is. My understanding was last year it was approximately 90% or so, but I just wanted an update on that. Is the district actively trying to be innovative and create less segregation among schools like Bradford? You know, it being such a high percentage of Hispanics, why? And it's been like that since I was a little girl, and maybe since Mr. Dindal has gone there too, but nothing has really changed. And I know that we have the capability of creating new pathways and being innovative. Look at Fort Concho going from probably the poorest school in the district to parents now coming and fighting for their kids from across town to stay at Fort Concho. It blows my mind, but that's how we can change and how we can, bring all the kids up together. So that was the next question in mind that I had. Probably my last one here. How can I be sure that the plan of the latest schools that we closing Bowie and Reagan Elementary after this school year, aren't due to the fact that they were extremely underperforming year after year? I just want to be sure, because I look at schools like Austin, Altaloma, those schools were also lower socioeconomic ratings and academically poor performing, and they were closed too. So I just want to be sure that that's not why we're choosing specific schools to close, especially along the way, me asking certain questions and I wasn't satisfied with the answers. I just want to be sure that how can I be sure that that's not why? I'm asking to help me understand the decision of closing Reagan Elementary. Now we're splitting those kids out to even lower performing schools such as Bradford, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's against the law to send students from a low performing school to an even lower performing school. We look at McGill, what is that doing to McGill now? It's lowering their rating because we sent Austin to that school. So to me, it doesn't make any reasonable sense, but maybe after, I see what you provide for me, it will. That's why I'm asking. Let's see here. And I just want to make sure that there's quality spread evenly across all campuses. And like I said, this has been happening for years, and I would really like to see a big change happen for the kids. I also mentioned an idea for a superintendent goals that I didn't get an email or anything back on that. But the goal number 1, I don't know if we're trying to be specific.
Let's talk about goals, Carla, when we get to goals, because the only reason I didn't email you back on that is because it's a board item. So we're going to be able to talk about board goals tonight.
We're not going to talk about it?
We are. We get to talk about it as a board. Okay. So like you and I, it's already on the agenda. So let's talk about board goals when we get to
So when we get to that, I'll bring it up again. But those are just some of the questions that I had, Dr. Gomez. And again, I really appreciate you giving me and the board these. It's a lot of work. It's a lot to understand. And like I said, my cup is always half full. It's never empty. I want to do my best as a board member and to help the district. That's all I'm here to do. So thank you for taking the time to do this, answer my questions, and I really look forward to the other answers to my other questions.
Yes, ma'am. And I do want to, while I have it here, and I'll show you when I sit back down, it was completely my typo where the score 56 was correct. I did not change the overall score. So it was just the number score.
Do you think you could possibly just go over everything again just to make sure that, everything's on track also? Okay, thank you.
There was a team of us, but I ultimately am responsible for that team, so I own it. So, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Gomez. Next, we're going to do Mr. Kallenbach with student data privacy.
Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, members of the board, just a quick overview of the way that we keep our student data protected. I just want to start first with why we take this so seriously and why we go to the extent that we do and the money that we put into protecting student data. First of all, student data for children, specifically demographic information, social security numbers, things like that, is more valuable than like adult data. And so we have to be really vigilant in protecting all of that information. And so this is just this is an overview. Anytime we're talking about safety and security, even with electronic things, we don't go into very much detail because we do not want to give away any of the things, the specific things that we're doing to keep bad actors out of our data. So this is a very broad overview. There's not a lot of specifics, and we wouldn't get into those specifics in public because we don't want to give away any of the things that we're doing to protect our students. So there's really two main categories of our data security. The one is protecting the digital data itself. Almost all of this is done by Ms. Doyle and her team in IT in terms of making sure that all of our employees have the correct access and the permissions. All of the things that you see on this list is handled. We have a cybersecurity specialist over in their department that is his whole task is to make sure that bad actors are not being able to get into our data and get anything that they shouldn't have. There are you all know about the multi-factor authentication where it makes you get on your phone, but it's worth it. I'm just saying that it's worth doing that. Every time you think about, I got to put in this number and get on my phone again, we need to keep doing that. I'm just saying. But one of the strategic focus area when it comes to the technical side of all of this is student account controls. And so what that is really to protect students basically from themselves and giving up information just unknowingly. And so we have a lot of controls on our student accounts that that keep them from like downloading things that they shouldn't. They have to have certain permissions and things like that just to keep them from, there's really not much difference in the adults. We do things, with phishing scams and things like that. So there's a lot of effort put into that on the student side. On the, what we call the data stewardship side, which is really our people in the organization and what we need to do in terms of training for all of our people that have access to student data. So FERPA is the law that protects the privacy, the appropriate data sharing, and I'll talk about that here in just a second at the end, the confidentiality. Our tech department has acceptable use that everybody has to do every year to make sure that they understand what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. And then reporting incidents, that's probably one of the most helpful things is when people see something that's wrong and they say something about whatever's happening with the data. Strategic focus areas in this department have to do with all of our employees understanding what constitutes a student record. So what is the information that is protected and what is information that can be shared? And then our employee understanding of who has permission to receive student records. So that all gets really complicated in our world because you can have custody things or all kinds of different people asking for student data that all of our employees really have to know, even our teachers have to know, like what can be shared and what can't be, and who it can be shared with and who it can't. So these are all the efforts. Again, this is a very high level overview and it's not very detailed. We do a lot of things. Ms. Doyle sent me a really detailed list of things and there's acronyms and organizations that I don't even know. I can't even describe what they do, but it's all designed to make sure that our student data is protected and that our kids' information is safe. Any questions or?
I was just curious, is there, I know at Shannon, there's someone actively, surveilling and making sure data is protected and there's not anyone in getting information they're not supposed to. Is the same thing apply with our student information?
Correct, yeah. We have our employee in Charlene's Q is our cybersecurity. I think that's a great name for a cybersecurity person, I'm just saying. But he does a great job. He's monitoring really all the time, all of our systems. And then I didn't include it, but we also partner with ASU and they also will look through all of our public facing information and what is it, RSOC, I think it's called. Yeah, I got one of the acronyms right. But it's a partnership with their cybersecurity processes where they're scanning our public facing information to make sure that there's no ways in so that people can't get into it. So there's multiple levels of every kind of security on this stuff.
Thank you.
Mr. Kalmbach, on employees that have access to, obviously an employee leaves the district, all their access is gone. But as employees change job titles or whatever throughout the district, who manages and makes sure that those access points are correct for their current or job title?
Yeah, correct. So we have systems in place with the IT department to once HR basically sends over a change in assignment, then there's a set of steps that go into place from that point on to make sure that permissions are either turned on or off depending on what their new position is or their level. Like if someone gets a promotion, they have more access or whatever. So there's a whole step process. And it has to do with those controls and permissions. It's pretty much an ongoing thing all year. And Charlotte may have more to say about that, but there's a whole system in place that's initiated at the point of when HR clicks that button that someone is moving or something like that.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Kalmbach? Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Next, we're going to move through our consent items. We have consent items A through H. That's donations, our minutes from our July meetings, maintenance, transportation, miscellaneous supplies that we talked about, the intrusion and fire alarm monitoring system, the adjunct professors for the 4-H for McCullough County, the T-Test certified appraisal list, which was in our Friday Facts, the library books, which is also in our Friday Facts, and the revision of board policy CFB local. Any discussion or anything need to be pulled from the consent? Do I have a motion to approve consent items A through H?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items A through H.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion from Mr. Gallegos and a second from Dr. Mills. Any other board comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Raise your hand. Motion passes 7-0. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dindle to conduct our Finance and Audit Committee workshop.
Thank you, Dr. Kingman. If you'll direct your attention to page 38 is where the finance and audit reports begin for August. Little syllabus there, and on page 42, we can move to the combined statement of revenues and expenditures for July the 31st of 2026. At the moment, July 31st, 2026, our total committed funds are 8.92 million prox. Of that, 4.08 million are for committed capital projects right now. And we also have an unassigned balance of $45,035,170, which is well within the limits of the amount of funds that we need to keep in reserve for TEA standards. If you want to move to page 45, the general fund revenues and expenditures for July the 31st. Bear in mind, we're in the 11th month of the budget cycle because we still have August is still a part of the 2025-2026 budget. Technically, we should be somewhere around 92%, but we see, again, revenues at 85.8% and expenditures at 88.3%. Because coming into this, we saw we were going to be a certain amount of students short for the year based on the original estimate. So our revenues are trending down at that point. Again, local collections are basically complete, whereas we are still waiting on state money to round out our budget for the year. And they're waiting to see the data that we ended up with last year too. So again, kudos to the district for curbing expenses down to 88.3%, as we can obviously curb the shortage that we're going to have this year, because we're going to be probably just a hair short of a balanced budget in my estimation as we move forward. Again, decreased enrollment required decreased spendings, which will help curb that shortage. Are there any questions on that? Again, that's a moving target right now, so we've still got August, and then we also have a clearer period of period 13 to make some final entries. And we'll see some adjustments to this budget here later on in this meeting too. If there are no questions, we can move to page 46 through 62, which is our July check register. Any questions you may have, make sure you direct them to Dr. Brandon, for sure.
Dr. Brandon, who's Euphoria? I'm 47.
Is it Eduphoria?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Eduphoria.
Yeah.
Euphoria.
Yeah.
Eduphoria, I'm sorry. What is that? And then Lightspeed as well.
Eduphoria is the program we use to house our teacher observations, our professional learning repository, and our student benchmark data platform.
And then Lightspeed?
Grading.
No, we use it for safety alerts and internet filters. I think Ms. Doyle is going to walk up to talk about that. We've also just recently used them.
Are those monthly? Is this a monthly payment or is this a yearly?
That's for the year.
That's for the year. Both of them
Yes.
are? Okay. That's what I'll.
Yeah, so in Lightspeed's case, that's the bid that y'all approved earlier this summer. And so it is our filter, our alert system, our management system for managing our iPads, and I know I'm going to forget a piece. There's one more piece to it, and but that's the yearly fee that we'll pay. And so that's getting us going for the new school year.
So the 84 and also the
Yes, that's for the year.
that's what I want. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we can move forward to the investment reports on pages 63 through 67. You can see in the district right now, our total invested funds are $449,168,565, which the bulk of that is our bond funding. Our interest earned for the month, $1,464,488 as we move forward. And then also, as Dr. Brandon mentioned earlier, our investment rates at this current month are 3.64% to 3.84% as we strive to keep them as high as we can. No further questions. We can move to pages 68 and 69, which is our June and July tax collection report. Comparison data, page 69, July, which is the latest report. 2024 shows a 99.09% collection rate, and 2025 is coming in slightly less than that at 98.51% total collections. So those are going to eke up very, very slightly between now and when we see the new tax report coming out, which probably is November, December, somewhere in there as we move into this next year. If there are no questions about that report, we can move to pages 70 through 78. Our July PO report, over $20,000, very active report this month. We've got some bond projects that we funded that we've been talking about. Also, some beginning school supplies, and then a plethora of food purchases and for child nutrition as we move forward and begin stocking our cafeterias for the new year.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Dindal?
Yeah. If not, Dr. Keenan, that concludes the report.
So we're going to move straight to our action item for that specific report, which is to consider bills, accounts, and financial statements. Do I have a...
With that, Dr. Keenan, I move to approve the financial reports for July.
I'll second.
So a motion from Mr. Dindal and a second from Mr. Gallegos. Any further board comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have a Tier 2 audit plan, which is on page 80 of your, I'll make the motion on that because it's a security thing to approve the recommended corrective actions for each facility to address findings that were identified in the 25-26 audit. So motion by myself. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any board comments or questions? In any comments or questions, just remember that this is in regards to security. Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. You're going to say the same. Motion passes 7-0. All right, Dr. LeMaster, you given the 26-27 employee compensation considerations?
And Dr. Kingman, if I can, you'll remember last meeting we talked about just a handful of market adjustments for employees, and we presented those to you. These are included. Okay. I'm not sure there's much of a presentation, to be honest with you. We just included those in this compensation consideration.
So I know we talked about it, our pre-agenda. Any comments or questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
Dr. Queen, I'd recommend to the board approve the administration's recommendation approving the 2026-2027 compensation plan as presented.
So motion from Mr. Dindal. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Dr. Mills. Any further board comments or questions? All right. All in favor say aye and please raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. All right, next. Superintendent goals, which we've been looking at for a little while. Everyone should have one of those at your desk. Do you want to start, Dr. Moran? And then we'll go from ask questions, and we can talk about any comments or questions regarding the superintendent goals as a board.
You bet. Well, the goals are developed as we move from one year to the next in hopes that this gives the board something to hold me accountable to, and also for me to pass along and work with our staff. You'll see that goal 1 is that 100% of our district campuses will earn an A, B, or C rating. And the idea there is that each of the campuses that you've heard about tonight have individual goals. We hope that everybody makes an A at some point, but some of our campuses are the F or D campus. You know, it's realistic to think that they would move to a C rating next. And then perhaps in a year, we'll trim that goal back to all districts being an A or a B. But certainly we want them a C or better, and we certainly want our campuses shooting for an A. Then goal 2, you'll see the increase in growth according to our NWEA MAP testing, and you can see those percentages. We think those are attainable. We think they're aggressive, and we think we should shoot high. And then the third is to adopt a balanced budget. And so this year, our work will be to put the board in a position to be able to do that next August through closing 2 campuses, reducing personnel, and doing everything we can as a district to be better stewards of the taxpayers' dollar. And then goal 4, you can see that the entire attendance boundary rezoning, feeder patterns, transfer guidelines will be completed, communicated, and we'll be moving into a smooth transition for next year. And then goal 5, making sure our bond construction projects are on schedule and under budget. So we feel like these are specific, they're measurable, attainable, results-oriented and time-bound, and these are our SMART goals. So, and of course, we can adjust these if we want as a board. These are ours to do with what we think is best. And so at no point should we feel like they're chiseled in stone and cannot change. As a board, we can change those.
So, you know, obviously we started getting these in June, but so now would be the time, because like Dr. Moran said, for people who don't, obviously the board understands, but for the public to understand, like this is when we go do Dr. Moran's evaluation. This is how we look at how we're going to measure how he's doing his job. And as a board, our employee is Dr. Moran. And so questions and comments regarding these board goals, now is the time to ask them and see what we can do as a board to come up with a.
Yeah, my suggestion was, do these need to be detailed? Because obviously, yes, campuses that are like at an F or a D, of course, would be shooting for, you know, the next level. C, yes, we want them A's, but I didn't know if, like goal 1, my suggestion was just to make it more detailed, but I didn't know if we need these to be detailed or not. In other words, stating our F campuses move up, you know, to a C. The campuses that are at C or B or A shooting up for the next letter up. You know, just aiming higher. Now, yes, when you read this, of course, you can read between the lines, but I just didn't know if it needed to be detailed and what the significance behind the goals are. But now, you know, you're saying they're directly tied to Dr. Moran's evaluation. So would it be okay to make goal number 1 more detailed in that way? Is that necessary?
I don't think it's necessary, but we could if we wanted. These board goals should be aspirational and high level, and not so detailed that it complicates the goal itself. They should be broad. So each of the campuses then have their needs assessment. They develop a campus improvement plan for the year, and our instructional team continues to work with them to achieve their individual goals, and it drills down even to the student. I think you heard someone said they'll name it and claim it, because if you go into a campus, elementary specifically, they've kind of got a war room where their PLC meets, and they've got the kids' names, and they move them from, you know, not meeting to masters, and each time they assess those kids, they're moving them to see where they are. So this is where this is the broad overarching goal, and we can drill down at the campus and then in the classroom with the teacher to the student. But however the board wants to handle it really is fine with me, honestly. I'm not going to get hung up on that.
So just traditionally, we've said, hey, like, let's set a big goal for the entire district because it's a district superintendent board goal. And then we've let those, so each campus, like, so by this, any campus that is a D or an F right now, if they're not a C next year, Dr. Moran will have not met that goal. Now, by these guidelines, if a campus is a C this year and it's a C next year, you're right, like, he could theoretically meet that goal, even if but only if all those D's and F's came up. And so for me, I think as a board, our job is to say, hey, as a district, we got to be better. We got to be A, B's, and C's. Like, we need to be out of district improvement. We don't need to get taken over by TEA. Those are our goals. But then we got to let our superintendent, our academic team, our principals and teachers, just like because if we're going to get really, it would be like, our real goal is that not every campus, it's every student is successful. And so, but I think from a board standpoint, as far as monitoring that, to me, it makes sense to keep it as broader. But if we want to do it more specific, I'm the same way. That was my thought, is this makes it a board district goal as opposed to a board campus goal. And really, as a board, we should be setting Dr. Moran's goals so that he can set that campus goal and then holding him accountable for that. But
I'm fine keeping it the way it is, but I will say that in the current goal, if a campus dropped to C campus, it would still technically meet the goal, but I think when we meet, we could read between the lines and we could assess that situation. So
I'm happy to adjust that if we need to. The idea was to move, our whole idea is to keep moving these schools and campuses up a letter grade, so the D's become C's, C's become B's, B's become A's, and that's pretty aspirational.
Yeah.
So
this is a big goal. If this happens, we're probably a mid-B district in a year.
Agreed.
Which would be a huge win for our community and our district. We should be pushing to achieve that with getting there. And so if we get this done, I think then next year it's like, okay, what do we need our August 2028 goal to be that accounts for the fact that we got that done?
What if on that first goal, you rewrote it? Like, this is just me. The district campus in San Angelo ISD will strive to keep their A, B, or at least a C rating. That way you're not like,
earn or maintain.
Maybe just word it.
Earn or maintain's fine with me.
Yeah, just word it differently.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
That
Earn
sounds
and
good.
maintain. Earn or maintain. But we don't really want them to maintain a C. I'm just like that's my issue. Like we don't really want like then all of a sudden they've maintained a C and we're like, well, no, the F wouldn't be, but we don't want them to maintain a C.
Right. Well, I think there's a different way you can write it. Ask an English person.
Well, I will
not too math people.
Not to get too bogged down here, but I will say if we are meeting goal number 2,
We're going to see.
and you're going to, goal number 1 takes care of itself. How about I work a little rewrite in there? I'm not sure what you guys are after, but you're wanting districts at a C or better and to continuously improve. I'll work something up.
Okay. And
we'll bring it back to you in September.
Perfect. We will plan on approving that in September. Well, no, we have to actually vote to approve those.
One more thing. Dr. Moran mentioned a SMART goal. Do you because I didn't know this until, SMART goals became a big thing. And SMART is an acronym. So do we know what the acronym for SMART is?
Yes.
We do? All of us do?
Well,
Can you let me know what the acronym is?
Yeah. So I don't remember really, but Dr. Moran would.
I'll repeat it because
Yeah.
I said it about 5 minutes ago. Specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and time-bound. Yeah.
When you set a goal and you do all those, it's the huge goal. This is a huge goal. And what I think Dr. Moran was saying, I always say, goal is the book, these are the chapters, and underneath goal 1, chapter 1, each school will have how we're going to do that. That's how my brain wraps around it.
Okay, so it's on the agenda, so we either need to make a motion to pass it, or we need a motion to table it for the September. So I just need someone to make a motion to do something.
Can I just make one
Oh,
comment
no.
before I apologize. I apologize. I just wanted to add one thing to something Dr. Moran had said about goal number 3, which was balancing the budget. And he said that we wanted to make sure there was a balanced budget by 2027, 2028, to be better stewards of taxpayer dollars. And he did mention it, but I just wanted to reemphasize for people watching in case they missed it, that a major part of the reason that we are not adopting a balanced budget this year for the first time since I've been on the board is because we held off closing those 2 schools that we're closing next year. So it really was, a benefit to give families more time and to get ready and give construction more time to be finished. So that's keeping our budget from being balanced while we're helping the community at the same time. So there was kind of a give and take there. But definitely next year, I would love to see our budget balanced again. And with that, I will make a motion. I'm not on the page, though. I will make a motion to pass. I'm sorry.
Do you want to approve them, or do you want to table them?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve them.
Okay. So we have a motion. Oh, sorry. It's on page 84.
If they're approved, then you can't go back and.
So yes, but she's making it, so she'll make a motion, and then there'll be a second, and then there'd have to be a vote. Or she can amend her motion to table it till next month, and then we can vote on it. I don't care. I'm just saying, like, it's either way, but okay, then go. Yeah, make a motion. Yeah, no, you make a motion, and then we'll see if there's a second, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I make a motion.
Okay, so there's been a motion to approve the board superintendent goals for the district for the 26-27 year. Do I have a second? Okay. Do we have a motion? I'll make a motion that we table this for our September meeting and put it on our pre-agenda in September for voting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further board comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Okay. Next, we're going to consider the proposed amendment for district official budget with child nutrition. And Dr. Brandon is here for that.
I think that on each one of these amendments, probably the easiest thing is to actually look at the budget item. I tried to go in when we get to the general fund on the Friday facts and kind of tidy that up where that was coming from. We'll start with the child nutrition budget amendment on page 88. Pretty minimal. Mrs. Hebert worked with the service center and TEA. There was a fund, 242, that there was the $1.4 million from ESSER. Well, it's a little harder to spend when it's in that fund category. She was trying to get it moved, and so she finally got approval to do that. So all you're really seeing, there's 2 things going on. In the federal program sources, 5,900, you see the reduction of 600,000. So just as you can imagine, when we lose students, less students ate in the cafeteria, breakfast and lunch. So we're reducing by 600,000 federal program sources, but you see that 1.4 million, $1,476,477 moving into the child nutrition budget, basically moving from Fund 242 to 240. And that's why you don't see a change in the overall budget. So under adopted original budget, you see $9 million on the fund on August 24th. And then you also see in the proposed amended budget, $9,015,768. So that's what's happening there. A 600,000 reduction, a $35,000 increase in state program sources, and then the moving of the $476,477 into transfer from the summer feeding program.
So what we need to approve tonight is not actually the expenditure, but the increased revenue, correct?
Yes, the proposed budget amendment to child nutrition.
For the increased revenue. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the child nutrition budget amendment with an increase in revenue of $911,477?
I'll make a motion for approval of the Child Nutrition Fund budget amendment for August 24th, 2026 with an increase in revenue in the amount of $911,477.
I'll second.
A motion from Dr. Mills and a second from Mr. Dindal. Any further board comments or questions?
I have a question. At the end of the school year, this past year, when we voted to increase lunch prices, does that is that in the mix here at all? Or is that totally separate?
I think the idea on the increase in the lunch prices is they have not been increased for, I think it was 3 years. And so as food costs have escalated and then we see declining enrollment, less children eating, it's kind of an offset to try to keep, you'll see when we approve the budget, we're actually approving a $300,000 deficit to the child nutrition budget, and that's even with the increased meal prices. So I think it's Mrs. Hebert trying to cover cost as well as less children eating in the cafeteria.
But just to clarify, this would be last year's, this is an amendment to last year's budget?
Yeah, this is last year's budget.
Not, so
Right.
this has nothing, the new prices are coming up in the next, on item, anyway, coming up on the food fund balance, or on the, that would be in the revenue portion of this year's budget.
On that note, I believe every year it's a negative, right?
It has been. We've been fortunate that during ESSER, there was a big fund balance, a couple $1 million from, they paid for every child to eat during that time. And so it's kind of slowly being reduced. And so I think that's certainly the effort, is to try to stabilize with the meal prices to cover cost.
So we haven't made any money on nutrition in the last several years, just
Correct.
to clarify for the public. Okay.
Okay. So we had a motion. Do we have a motion? Yes. Yep. We had a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against say the same. Motion passes 7-0. All right, next we're going to do a proposed amendment for official district budget for the general fund.
Okay.
And Dr. Brandon again.
You have the packet, the hard packet handout to look at that. And so I think probably the best example that we have there, and I apologize, that's not numbered, it's a second to the last page. And you see adopted, right, 4 columns, adopted original budget, amended budget, adjustment, amended changes, and then the proposed amended budget. So we'll just kind of, hopefully the Friday facts was helpful. But as we go down that column, just the major changes, we have a reduction of $850,000 in local revenue. We have $1 million reduction in the state program revenue. So total revenues being reduced by 1.8 $1,850,000. We talked about that being from declining student enrollment and then our taxes. We'll talk about the state hopefully providing that back in our amendment come October. But then we look down the expenditures, and like Mr. Dindal said, when we knew it was going to be tight come February and March, campus leaders, program directors, everybody kind of tightened the belt. And you see there in instruction for 11, a reduction. So we've reduced instruction from 78 million to 74. So that is actually savings, 3.9 million. Each one of those under the expenditures is a reduction in those budgets. The increases that we see, student pupil transportation, we have the buses that didn't come in last year when ordered. They came in this year, 2.6 million. So we put that increase in. The co-curricular activities are the 2 activity buses. We bought the 2 Bluebirds. Those were specific to student travel. That's why they show up in co-curricular. The 900,000 was the expenditure plant and maintenance operations, the chiller at Lakeview. That's work that we did pre-bond. And then 1.2 million. We had the note for the turf at Old Bobcat, and then the completion of Altaloma, the data center. We installed a generator, which, on a positive note, when the transformer went out last week on Sherwood Way and they had the fire shut down, Charlene reported that the generator fired up and kept the district internet running. So that's exactly right, the time that you never know when you're going to need it, but keeping the internet going, student data, everything that our teachers use for curriculum. So kudos to that project. Once you bring it all together, you see those changes. We can see a final $9,325,164 expenditure, less for revenue, and then the final proposed amended budget at $140,295,898.
So as Mr. Dindal mentioned, just to make sure I'm reading it correctly.
Okay.
Basically, by the time we get the buses, which we included out of fund balance, we've basically gotten there for this year as far as a balanced budget, even with the decreased revenue, like with the decrease in expenditures that our staff and everyone did this year, our revenue and expenditures ended up almost right.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we had our capital expenditures that we purposefully did.
Yeah, absolutely.
But outside of that.
Yeah, that's my point. Like when you take the capital expenditures out of there, the things that had to be moved over. So.
And we are hopeful. I mean, we turned in our tax information survey and reported to TEA that we lost $2 million in local property value. I mean, $2 million in local taxes because of the reduction in our property values from the freeze. And so our hope is that they'll make that amendment, and that usually doesn't happen until October. But before the final audit that comes back to the board in January, we're hoping that we see that $2 million added back to our fund balance.
Perfect.
But until we see it, we can't.
We can't
put it
document it.
Can't put it in the budget.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the general fund amendment?
Dr. Brandon, one more question. Will that $2 million come back into this year's budget, or is it will be in addition to next year?
Yes,
Just kind of like the buses, one side of August versus the other side?
Right. They'll have to book it back to 25, 26 school year.
We'll book it back to 25, 26?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. They'll make a journal entry to correct it back to the school year that it was should have been captured in.
And then we'll see that in our fund balance.
Yes.
Yeah, come back in. With that, I'd move to approve the general fund budget amendment for August 24th, 2026, with changes to function codes with results in no monetary differences.
Second.
Do we need, I'm worried about the wording on that. I get that there are no monetary differences, but do we need to approve it as a increase in revenue and decrease in revenue, like Hope put it on the paper one we got on our desk today? So we're gonna amend that motion, I think.
Dr. Kingman, let me amend that motion. Whereas the administration recommends, move to approve the general fund budget amendment for August 24th, 2026, with changes to function codes and a decrease in revenues in the amount of $1,850,000 and an increase in expenditures in the amount of $1,970,000. My apologies, Dr. Kingman.
All right. So I have a motion from Mr. Dindal. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Mrs. Duncan. Any other board questions or comments? All in favor say aye and raise your hand. Aye. Motion passes 7-0. All right. Next, we have the debt service fund.
A little easier on
Yes.
our INS debt service. Simply decreasing tax collections by $750,000. So you can see in total revenue, we're bringing down the local revenue by $750,000. It's kind of by the same token as we reduced the local tax base from the freeze, then it's just a lower amount being at 35 cents on the INS versus 71 cents. But that's not going to be collected at this time, so we want to bring that down. And then you can see we still made we collected $27,405,716. We made our bond payment for $28,155,716. And so anything that we were short, we are able to pull from our INS fund balance, which currently has $6.9 million. So there'll come a time when the board, we could reduce that INS budget. The board will say, hey, could we use $1 million or $2 million from INS fund balance, reduce our INS rate by a penny or by 2 pennies, and so there'll come a time we'll be able to do that. So,
And Dr. Brown, as we know that INS funds stay in INS funds and M&O funds stay in M&O funds. So as those INS funds increase because of the reduction in our payment from the state, from the ASH refunds, I think, yeah, we may be able to reduce that moving forward, but we can only reduce the INS budget and can't move that money from INS to M&O for any sort of shortage we have.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We can't mix them between.
Yeah, they never
Go
the
either
twain
way.
shall meet. Yeah.
That's a good point.
But it is something, as we wrap up bond projects 2 years from now, that we'll be able to be able to do for our community, which is huge. And that all of a sudden that $80 million that we got early by funding the bond early and everything else will come back to benefit the local community. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the debt service fund budget amendment?
I'll make a motion to approve the administration's recommendation of the debt service fund budget amendment for August 24th, 2026, with a decrease in revenues in the amount of $750,000.
Motion from Mr. Gallegos. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Dr. Mills. Any further board comments or questions? All right, all in favor say aye. Motion passes 7-0. All right, next we're going to go to approving the designated the fund balance for 26-27. Dr. Brandon, you're up again.
Under GASB number 54, fund balance is reported under 5 different categories: non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. For that to happen, the board must take action to commit any amount of fund balance to reflect tentative plans and commitments or other future uses. And so kind of a standard, what the board's used to looking at, actually fewer items than in the past. We do commit $83,925 for the E-rate match, $750,000 for the property insurance deductibles if we had a large storm like in 2020, and then $100,000 committed for capital equipment just in case we had some piece of large expensive equipment in maintenance that went out and that we needed to replace quickly. And then at the bottom of that resolution are the amounts that are our campus activity fund amount that we commit, the $527,193.65 stay in campus activity fund, $87,918.16 for the San Angelo Stadium Fund, and then the $6,009 for Fund 481, former health insurance fund for district wellness programs.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the designation of the fund balances?
As Dr. Brandon mentioned, we can see that the capital projects are few and far between this year, and so we are only doing the minimum. And again, $100,000 committed for capital equipment could be far short, as we saw in the Lakeview chiller project. So we're hoping that as we move forward with the bond projects and newer equipment in place, we'll see less of that emergency fund move as we move forward. But with that, I'd move to approve the designation of fund balances and resolution as presented.
A motion from Mr. Dindal and a second from?
Second.
Mrs. Duncan. Yeah, and just to Mr. Dindal's point, there are a lot of capital projects going on. There's coming out of a different fund. And
Yes.
so there's a lot of capital projects going on, but this year, because we have the bond projects, that's coming out of an INS. So any further board comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 7-0. All right, next we have adoption of the 26-27 official budget.
We have, for the board's review, the resolution in order to adopt the 26-27 school budget by fund and function. You have a hard copy of the three budgets approved by the board: general fund, child nutrition, and debt service. We looked at the numbers this evening. Our revenue with the reduction in student enrollment to $127,143,762. We are showing end expenditures $130,422,348 for the $3.2 million deficit. We certainly will do our best to begin to reduce that as we move through the school year. Our child nutrition, Mrs. Cardenas, you can see there that they've made, it was $300,000. They've made some adjustment there, but we do have $161,000 still showing a deficit for child nutrition, and that would be with the increase in the meal price. And then our debt service official budget, estimating collections of just over $28 million, with the bond expenditure, bond payment at a little less than that, in just over $28 million, and so an actual revenue gain that would go into the INS fund balance of $650,001.
All right, and just as a reminder, as Mrs. Mizell Flint mentioned earlier, when we had elected to give the $1,000 stipend to all employees, and when we elected a year ago to slowly work on building our district efficiently for as far as a classroom and campus, number of campuses, this is kind of the result of those two decisions. So obviously everyone can vote how they want to vote, but to really, with the decisions we have made up to this point, there's really no way to have a balanced budget until we get the campus locations correct. And so but the other note is that because we have been judicious with our ESSER funds over the last several years, the reason that money is there as a district is to put it into our kids, put it into our staff. And so by adopting a deficit budget, we're able to treat our employees the way, to take care of our employees and not to make cuts on our families or students in a drastic manner as some districts are having to do across the state. That's my take on that. But
And
any
also,
other?
Dr. Kingman, as a result of some of the reduced enrollment that we see from our projection from the original process that we begun however many months ago, slight adjustment there too.
All right, so do I have any other questions for Dr. Brandon? Do I have a motion to approve the 26-27 maintenance, operation, food service, and debt service budgets by fund and function as presented? I'll make a motion. I make a motion for that. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So I made a motion because I read it, and then Mr. Dindal made a second. Any further board comments or questions? All in favor say aye and please raise your hand. Aye. Motion passes 7-0. All right, and next, the one that everyone's really excited about doing is adopting the tax rate. Obviously, we saw this at our public offering of it, and then we saw it at our pre-agenda as well last week. Is there any further, I guess legally you should probably say it again since we had the public announcement, now we have the vote.
Yes, sir. After going through the tax calculation worksheet, reviewing the no new revenue tax rate and the voter approval tax rate, administration recommends adopting the ordinance to set the total tax rate at $1.638 for the 26-27 school year, with 0.7054 of the rate being maintenance and operations and 0.3584 the total tax rate specified for debt service.
All right, do I have a motion? I won't read it this time.
Dr. Kingman, it's interesting that schools have to live within their means, and so the state sets the no new revenue tax rate, which the schools district cannot go beyond that without some sort of election or ratification by the public vote. So schools stay within their means as usual. And so with that, I would move to adopt the ordinance to set the total tax rate at 1.0638 cents for the 2026-27 school year. The rate is allocated as follows: 0.054 cents. 70.54 cents of the total rate is specifically levied for maintenance and operation expenses, and 35.84 cents of the total rate is specifically levied for debt service.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Dindal and a second from Mr. Gallegos. Any further board comments or questions? One thing I will say is just for our community, I think it's important to know that as a district, even when Dr. Brandon put up the sheet earlier this evening and last week, like historically we try and lower the tax rate. I know it's only a cent this year, but I think it's important to realize that as a board, I mean, our goal is to take care of students, and then also to live within our means and have it set a tax rate that is as low as possible to do that. And so, we'll continue to work to bring that down over the next several months and years. All right, so I had a motion from Mr. Dindal and a second from Mr. Gallegos. Any board comments or questions other than that? All in favor say aye and please raise your hand. Aye. Motion passes 7-0. All right, we're going to have a quick turnaround, guys. Pre-agenda, September 1. Regular board meeting, September 21. And with that, we are adjourned.